Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got the beginning of a pretty cool series. So we know that you guys probably don't buy drivers every single year. So what we're doing is we're going to look at the current driver versus a driver that's 3 models old. So by the end of this year, it'll be four years back in technology. And we think that's more of a relative buying cycle. So help you understand, hey, I've got X model driver. What gains am I going to see from upgrading to the latest tech? Today, it's all about Taylormade. We are going to look at the 4th generation Qi35 4th gen carbon face versus the OG carbon face.
They've made a lot of improvements. It's definitely changed over the years. And, you know, from the first one to the most recent one, pretty big change.
Right, huge topic, right? First company to really go full carbon in the face. We've obviously seen carbon everywhere else in all the other drivers. This was a big leap into the unknown. And I think, you know, Taylormade will say it. They've probably faced some challenges over these iterations.
Absolutely. I mean, I've said it a couple of times. I think we probably just take a little bit of a step backwards when they first went to carbon, but using a hell of a bigger runway to improve, and they have done that. So, you know, now it's getting really competitive, so interesting to see what happens in the future too.
Well, this is why we're here. 4 generations of testing. First things first, we're going to jump on the robot. We are going to do a 115 mile an hour test at 0, 0, 0. And I see in the comments, we get a lot of comments, you should do this swing, you should do that swing. The premise of this isn't to be fit in the player that makes the perfect swing. It's so that we are like neutralizing the factors going into changing the golf ball flight. If we haven't got angle of attack changes and we haven't got face angle changes, then it can be applicable across the board, we think.
Right.
At least that's a start point. And when we go to the big scientific test that we've run, that Dr. Mace has verified the numbers on, which is later in the video, hang in there for that. That's the 100 mile an hour test. That's for more people, obviously, more people 100 mile an hour. That one we hit up on it 2 degrees, and we still keep the face 0, 0 to try and get a better ball flight, but also get as little factors changing ball flight as possible.
Right, we just don't want to introduce too many variables at one point in time, right? So if we have a closed face, outside in swing, you know, all those things change things. So just trying to see what the difference is, you know, neutral to start with anyway.
I'd love you to drop some comments early in the video and let us know who you think is going to win the battle and how they're going to win the battle. Is it going to go further, the new one? Is it going to go straighter? Are we going to see more spin, less spin? Start commenting now and let's hit this on the robot and get you some data. All right, Glenn, let's start. First things first, stealth. 10.5 degrees, 115 miles an hour. We're going to hit it out the center, then the toe, then the heel, and then we're going to put it up against the Qi35. It's always fun for us because these tests are live.
We don't know what's going to happen.
These are genuinely like really happening in front of our eyes. We know the test at a different speed, but we haven't seen this go. So, okay, we've got it's 12.6 degrees of launch, which means kind of obviously the shaft's kind of adding a little bit of loft through that section because we're hitting neutral with 10.5.
And that's typical for tour players. You know,
tour players actually hit down on it a little bit.
Yeah.
At this speed, so 114.9, and we got 3200 spin. And this one, this exact head, obviously has got a little bit of fade bias. A little explanation on that before we drags it across. We're going to hit the 3/4 of an inch off the toe with this one, Glenn. Is that we set the robot up at a neutral lie angle, and then test all the heads are the same. So as the lie angle changes from model to model, we'll see some that toe up, some that toe down. This one obviously provided a little bit of fade tilt.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, 3 degrees, nothing crazy. And we know that toe section shots with drivers have definitely got better.
Really good. Actually, most of the drivers we tested, you lose 1 or 2%. That's about it, which is pretty impressive. And 3/4 inches is not, you know, a little bit either. It's a fair amount.
It's the minimum that I miss it. And we can see the shape as you watch it flying through the air there. That come back to the center. Now let's talk about that a little bit. That's gear effect.
Right.
So we actually want the golf ball to work back to target. We don't want it to start right and hang right. We saw a little bit increase in launch, a little increase in spin, and we control the factors of face there. And Glenn, if you could go to the range view real quick on that, and let's just see where that lies as we go towards the heel shot next. There you go. Yep. So it's not a million miles behind it, right?
No, not much actually.
All the way back across to the heel. 273.
That's a pretty good example of
the heel strike.
The heel strike is a fade and the toe strike is a draw, and pretty much dead down the middle.
Okay, let's see what that one does. So we lost 278 carry from the center, and we lost 5 yards from the toe, and we've lost 18 yards from the heel. And we know that heel strike with the
13
driver.
yards. Oh, all right, 18, yeah.
18, yeah. It's super, super tough with the driver. Glenn, let's just have a look at the driving range of view there again real quick. All right.
Pretty good, though. They're all pretty close to the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's 10 yards right or left. They're all 5-yard stops.
Yeah. So let's snap the Qi35 on. We're going to snap it on exactly the same shaft, the same swing with the robot, all 3 impact locations, and compare.
Okay, take a look.
After that, hang in there for the 100-mile-an-hour test. Much more data, proper
Right.
scientific test. Okay, so Qi35. Hopefully we got some comments in there before this piece is actually taken off with your
Right.
guesses. I bet we're seeing longer and lower spin or whatever, but let's actually find out what happens at 115 mile an hour. Probably can't hear it in this camera environment indoors,
Right.
but there's a definite distinct sound difference between the two.
Oh, I mean, hitting it's a huge difference. It feels and sounds way better. I mean,
Yep.
90% of feel is sound, right?
Yep.
But they've definitely done a long way in that.
Awesome. 115.2 mile an hour, so same speed. We got immediately lower launch and lower spin out of that first shot. And believe it or not, we picked up 6 yards carry.
Really? That's interesting. We didn't see that in the lower speed, but as you obviously increase speed, all the differences get amplified quite a bit. So
Right, yeah, 6 yards. That's huge
a lot.
for a tour pro to say, here's
6 yards, yeah, I was actually surprised in that. I thought it'd be more like 2 or 3 maybe, but 6 is a lot.
Yeah. Okay, now less for the tour pro needs, more from the average Joe needs.
Yep.
Let's sling it across to the toe and see how different it is out of that section.
Here it comes, turning in.
Does that look like it's turning more to you than the...
It's landing right on the line, so yeah.
There it did. It was
Yep.
awesome. Okay, 276. So he picked up 3 yards relative to the toe hit, and 6. Glenn, let's take a sneak. Actually, let's not take a sneak peek. Wait on the video to look at the final results for this test. Let's move it across to the heel first, and then we'll compare head-to-head final results.
Here's the heel fading back in.
Same story. It looks like it's got a little more shape to
And
it.
I tell you what, it's right on the line again.
All right, a bit of a mess, but the yellow, the furthest one out there, is the Qi35. So you can see the distance gain.
Right.
That's awesome. Then the toe, you can see it went back and crossed the center line, and it's basically in a dead straight line. And then the heel, the two heel shots are almost on top of each other from both drivers.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we're seeing in robot testing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the heel's the hardest part, right? Toe is much more easy to get better distance out of it and everything else. It's moving faster for one, right? And it's more mass out there, so it definitely helps. But the heel shot's tough.
Yeah.
And, minor improvements are, big in the heel.
Okay, so that's some evidence there. Not many of you out there are 115 mile an hour, but the ones that are going to find that fascinating, there's some absolutely solid concrete evidence there that you are not only going to gain distance from the Qi35, if you're coming from a Stealth, you're going to hit it a ton straighter.
Yeah, it definitely curves back into the middle better, for sure.
Okay, now let's get into the real science. That's the fun stuff. And here is when we're going to find an explanation. So think about those test numbers, keep them in your mind. Now we're going to drop down to 100 miles an hour. This 100 mile an hour test is slightly different. We hit up on it 2 degrees, whereas that last test was at 0.
Yep.
And we obviously ramped that speed down, so we got 0, 0, 0. And we said at the beginning of this, we're struggling to understand whether the 2 up degree angle of attack is relative to the average player, or does it need to be 4 up, or does it need to be 0? But look at that graph there. And now let's just talk about the numbers first of what happened between Stealth and Qi. If we look at the chart that we've got on the screen here now, the launch and spin didn't really do anything between the two. There's not.
No, it's minor difference. I mean, 0.2 lower, a little bit, actually a little bit more spin, but not much.
What we did see was a ball speed gain. We saw nearly a 1
Definitely,
mile an hour.
almost a mile an hour, which is substantial. That's a lot at 100 miles an hour too, right?
And that's what just translated up to the 115.
Yeah, as we got to 115, we saw a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, that same difference in ball speed gives a lot more distance.
And on this one, you're seeing the heel and the toe drop kind of about the same, not much different.
Yeah, they're relatively the same. I mean, a yard is, inside the statistical deviation we're going to have with a robot or anything, right? So, I mean, I would call that a tie.
And then the carry 1 yard, which is like nobody's going to care about that.
Right.
But this is just numbers. And this next graph here is actually going to show you the difference between Qi35 and Stealth and why you should invest.
Yeah, there's a pretty big difference here. Right. When you look at the graph, you're like, okay, so the new one is a really tight bunch and all really close together and all really close to the center, which we kind of saw with the higher speed, right?
Right.
They curved back into the center better.
And it ended up in a straight line.
Yeah, right.
And that's the left graph on the screen.
And on the older one, obviously, the heel is the same thing. It's going to drop off, but a wider circle, right to left. The toe is further right.
Yep.
And the center is, you know, obviously a little shorter, so, and also spread out more. So the difference in the size of the circles and how far apart they are is considerable.
Yeah.
It's definitely straighter.
So, I mean, okay, we're out there, you want to buy a driver, I've got Stealth. I mean, you want to pick key points of why you're going to say to someone, should he invest in this? First of all, yes, we think you should invest in this.
Yep.
Second is, you are going to pick up distance at any speed more as it gets higher.
Right.
And the consistency, and this is what everyone should be thinking about of a driver, unless you're a tour player.
Right.
When you mishit it off center, in this case, 3/4 of an inch, which is not as much as some people miss it.
An inch and a half between those two shots. I mean, it's not a big face, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's here and here.
And if we stretch that out even further for the average Joe who might do an inch or even more than that, you're only going to get better and better results, right?
Absolutely.
It's more forgiving. So you are going to miss-hit the driver, hit it straighter, hit it longer.
That's the big advantage of the new drivers, right? I mean, they're not necessarily going much further. I mean, we are seeing slight increases in ball speed and distance and spins getting better, but it's how far right and left they go.
Yeah.
It's really the big improvement.
And if you're looking at the change of consistency, I don't want to change my ball flight because some drivers are going to launch and spin differently from year to year. This one is in the same launch window, the same spin window, but you're just picking up a bit of speed and way more control.
And there's plenty of adjustments to kind of fine tune that, right? So you got adjustments of the shaft to go right and left and add loft and take it off, and then you got adjustments of weights. So, you know, there's a lot you can do to dial this thing in. And that's really the key to fitting, right? So you can get the best driver in the world. If it's not tuned correctly, you're giving up 10 yards.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier on the radio show, and, you know, that's really the big deal, right? So dial it in to get it as much distance as you can out of it.
Okay, shameless plug. Please like, subscribe the channel. We need your feedback. It helps drive YouTube viewers to us and helps people make better decisions when they're buying golf clubs. If you watch the channel and you're going to go and buy a new golf club, head to a Worldwide Golf retail location or any Cool Clubs fitting center, and I promise you, you're going to have the best shopping experience and you're going to get results when you purchase a new club. Hopefully this helped. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Cheers.